guys, it's me Priyam and today I'm going to show you how you can build this 5-inch freestyle quad. If you are thinking to make your first FPV build, this can be a pretty good option for you as this is going to be a budget build. And before starting the build process, let's go through all the components I'm using for this build. Okay, so here are all the components I'm using for this build. For the frame, I am using this Mark IV 5-inch. It's a clone variation of the original Capacity Mark IV 5-inch. It's a pretty good frame if you are on a tight budget. For the motors, I am using Readytosky 2306 2600 kV motors. For the price they are listed, the performance is pretty good, but these motors only support 4S LiPo cells, so keep that in mind. For the FC stack, I am using the Speedybee F405V4 stack. It includes the flight controller and the ESC. ESC stands for Electronic Speed Controller. It is the heart of your drone. It controls all the motor directions and motor speed. And the flight controller mainly serves as a brain for your drone. This FC stack is pretty good for the price it comes, but if you can spend more, you should definitely check out something better. For the Fpv system, I am using these three components. For the VTX, it's the Speedybee TX800. Although the performance of this VTX is not really satisfying and you should definitely check out something better. For the camera, it's the Caddax Ratel 2. Performance of this camera is really amazing. You should definitely check out this. For the antenna, I am using Foxeer Pogoda. I really love the performance of this antenna. For the transmission, I am using Axis Flying Express LRS Nano receiver with the zero drag T antenna. And for the radio link, I am using this Express LRS micro module with my Radio Master TX12 transmitter. You can pick any radio link as long as it has enough range for your suitable use case. To watch the live FPV footage, I am using Skyzone SkyO40 Pro FPV goggles. Skyzone makes one of the best premium analog FPV goggles in the market. You should definitely check this out. Okay, let's start it with the frame. The frame itself comes separated. You have to assemble it on your own. I am not showing the assembling process as different frames require different assembling process. If you don't get a manual for assembling your frame, you can search up online. You will definitely find something that will help you around. I suggest you to assemble the whole frame and then remove the top plate before starting the build. I am using these M3 bolts to mount the motors. I am also using these motor wire shields and passing the motor wires through it, as this is gonna add extra protection to the wires. You can also use nylon braids or electrical tape to protect the wire. While mounting the motors, use suitable length of bolts so you don't accidentally touch the bolts with the motor windings. Okay, I have mounted all the 4 motors to the frame. Now it's time we place the ESC. Now for soldering wires to the ESC, I have already measured and cut the extra length of the wires. Also don't forget to tin the wires before soldering. If you don't know how to solder, you should check out some tutorials on YouTube. It's definitely gonna help you. While soldering the iron, I am keeping my solder iron temperature to 480 degrees Celsius. I have soldered all the motor wires to the ESC. Now it's time we solder the XT60 connector. I have measured the extra length of the XT60 connector wires as I prefer to mount the XT60 sideways on this frame. I am giving twists to the wire ends and gonna add some solder to the wire ends, as this is gonna help me soldering it to the ESC. The XT60 pads are gonna take a lot of heat from your solder iron, so take your time and make the joints as clean as possible. Solder joints looks pretty clean and I am really happy with this. Now it's time we install the capacitor that came with the flight stack. I added some extra wires to the capacitor as I'm gonna mount this capacitor in the front side of the frame. Now it's time we install the flight controller. The small arrow you see in the flight controller, it's supposed to be facing towards the front side of the frame. Also don't forget to add this wire. It connects the FC to the ESC. Now to mount the camera to the frame, I am using these side mounts that comes with the frame, and now I'm just gonna place it right here. To use this VTX, instead of using the JST connector plug like me, you can directly solder wires to the pads if you want. Also this VTX comes locked, so you have to unlock it using the side switch. Otherwise it's gonna be locked at 25 milliwatt. And to mount it to the frame, I am using some zip ties. Now to solder all the wires to the flight controller, I am following this flight controller circuit diagram that comes with my flight stack. If you are using a different flight controller, then you have to follow your own diagram. While soldering, make the wires twisted and keep it as short as possible to reduce electrical noise. Once you solder the receiver to the flight controller, make sure to add a heatsink tube and heat it properly. I'm also going to use some zip ties to mount the receiver on the front side of the frame. and the receiver antenna to the arm of the frame. Now the build process is finished. All we have to do is power up the drone and check if all the connections are made right. Before powering up, make sure to plug the antenna to the VTX or you're gonna damage your VTX. I'm using this smoke stopper as this lets you know if you made any mistakes while soldering. Everything is fine. Now all I have to do is program this drone through Betaflight configurator. I am not including the programming part, but if you guys want, do let me know in the comment section and I will make a separate video on how to use Betaflight configurator. I am using these plastic nuts to secure the FC stack, and after programming, it's finally ready to install the top plate. And for the props, I am using Gemfan 5.1 inch dry braid propeller set. For batteries, I am using CHNL Black 1500 mAh 4S LiPo cells. And to record 4K high quality footage, I am using this action camera. It's DJI Osmo Action 4. Alright guys, the build process is finished. Now you can go outside and test your quad. If you find any problems, you can directly contact me through Instagram or you can just comment on this video. All the Best Buy links for all the components are listed on the description, and if you like the content, make sure to subscribe and follow my Insta page. I'm gonna see you in the next video. Goodbye.